It is a Monday edition, a Christmas Eve edition of Locked On Grizzlies. I am your host, Joe Mullinax, joined by my co-host, Damichael Cole. We're talking Grizzlies Hawks, a great win for Memphis in Atlanta this past weekend. We're going to talk about whether or not Damichael and I will be working a little bit more intensely this time next year if Memphis will be back on the NBA's Christmas Day slate of games. And of course, Memphis wraps up their pre-Christmas slate against the Clippers tonight. All that and more on this episode of Locked On Grizzlies. Let's lock in.
You are Locked On Grizzlies, your daily Memphis Grizzlies podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
It's a Monday edition of Locked On Grizzlies, and I am so glad, as is my co-host Damichael Cole, to have you with us each and every time an episode drops here on Locked On Grizzlies. We are proud members of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team each and every single day. Like, comment, rate, review, subscribe wherever you get podcasts, Apple, Amazon, Spotify, YouTube, literally anywhere you get a podcast, you can get Locked On Grizzlies. We also hope that you're going to be a subscriber to our free daily newsletter. The latest numbers came out to Michael, and we dropped a couple of spots. We're number 9 now instead of number 7. Okay. Need folks to go to lockedondaily.com, subscribe to our free daily newsletter. Still pretty good, considering that Memphis is the smallest market in the NBA, or at least in terms of franchise valuation, maybe a topic for a future episode of Locked On Grizzlies. But still nice to be in the top 10, but we want to keep that number nice and high. Make sure you're subscribing at lockedondaily.com. Go to that free daily newsletter and get Grizzlies content from me, NBA content, and all sorts of other goodies in your inbox for free each and every day. Again, we are happy to be with you, and we are happy to be here because of FanDuel, our sponsor for this episode. The NFL playoffs are almost here, but it's not too late to get in on the regular season action with FanDuel, because right now, new customers can finish the season strong with $250 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Damichael, happy holidays to you. Happy Christmas Eve. Obviously, lots of things going on. The hustle and bustle is real. And Speaking of hustle and bustle, the Grizzlies did just that to the Hawks on Saturday night, taking out Atlanta to the tune of 128-112. Important to point out, Morant did not play in this contest. Also important to point out that Trae Young did not play in this contest. So the two best assist dishing out point guards in the association did not partake in the festivities. But Desmond Bane sure as heck did, as did Scotty Pippen Jr. And those two guys paced the Grizzlies' effort in a big win in Atlanta.
Yeah, I mean, let's just start with these last 2 games. That's 2 wins in a row, wire to wire, Joe. They haven't trailed in the last 2 games. I mean, you talk about
jumping out on people in the first quarter early. Memphis was winning 43-27 in the at the end of the first quarter, and they won the second quarter 30-22. So that means the Grizzlies had a 24-point lead going into the halftime. That's really hard to come back from.
I mean, it's been a theme though. You know, they've jumped out on a bunch of teams, like this this season. They're one of the best first quarter teams in the NBA. They went into Atlanta, set the tone early, as you stated. That backcourt is a big reason why. And it's becoming now, the sample size is still small, but the addition of Scotty Pippen Jr. Last January has proven to be an important one for the Grizzlies. And of course, like you said, with Desmond Bane, he did what he does. Desmond Bane led the way with 23 points. I think he had 8 assists as well. Scotty Pippen Jr. had 22 points, 9 assists. So you talk about from your backcourt, both guys flirted with double-doubles, and they both led you in scoring. Scotty Pippen Jr. just does a really good job of doing what this Grizzlies offense needs from its point guard. And we saw it in the broadcast. I think it was Brevin Knight or Preet Panica. One of them just kept talking about how Scotty Pippen Jr. was constantly touching the paint. Look, Joe, I can't emphasize it enough. That is the key to this offense. I think I've said it on the show before, like in practices when they do the scrimmages, Joe, you come up the court and you swing the ball around the perimeter, you knock down the shot. Doesn't count. You got to touch the paint. The ball, whoever has the ball has to get 2 feet in the paint and then initiate offense from that way, and then a basket will be scored. So you see Scotty Pippen Jr. doing that. It's the little things where, sometimes us as casual viewers, we just want to see points put up on the board. We're not paying attention to, did they touch the paint on this possession? No, but Scotty Pippen Jr. is better at that than a lot of guys you talk about in this Grizzlies guard rotation. But the other thing, Joe, is it was really good to see Desmond Bane. Now that's back-to-back games where because the Golden State game, I mean, it was a 51-point blowout. So his numbers, I think he ended up with 15 points. But if it was a game where he could have played 28, 29, 30 minutes, he would have scored 20 plus in that one too. He came out early in that one, scored, it was aggressive, came out in this game, scored. The assist numbers have been there. Like me and you've talked about it when everyone was huffing and puffing about what Desmond Bane's bringing to the table. We were kind of pointing out the fact that even when he's not scoring, you're going to get something else. He's not just some, 3-point shooter who, hey, this is the key to my game. If I'm not making shots, I suck. That's not Desmond Bane. He can still do other things. And now what you've seen is 4 consecutive games from Desmond Bane, I believe that is, with at least 7 assists. And he's in a role right now from a facilitating standpoint, and the scoring is starting to get back to what we're used to.
It's really impressive to watch Scotty Pippen Jr. and Desmond Bane play so well together. And it makes you wonder if perhaps, Damichael, just perhaps, we should start having the conversation about somebody like a Ja Morant, who's so talented, so multifaceted in what he does, playing his best defense of his career.
Oh,
but
yeah.
For the best of the team, Damichael, maybe Ja should start coming off the bench and be a 6-man guy, right? Like maybe that should be, because we see how well Scotty Pippen Jr. does when he starts, and we see
8 and 4.
how he's a natural in that spot. I think that it might be a good idea. Actually, no, I don't think that's a good idea, because it's
somebody
stupid,
thought you were serious.
Because it's stupid to say that Ja Morant should be a 6th-man bench player, just like it was stupid, albeit a little less stupid, to say that Desmond Bane should be a 6th man. It was dumb. Hopefully we can leave that in the past. Kind of felt unnecessarily divisive. In a Grizzlies fan base where people like to get mad all the time, and admittedly, I'm one of the ones that gets mad, that felt unnecessarily divisive, at least to me. So hopefully we can move on from that. Desmond Bane starting to get back into the flow. You mentioned Marcus Smart. Marcus Smart played well in the 9 minutes that he logged.
He did.
Unfortunately for Marcus Smart, he got injured. Another ring finger. He's having some issues with the fingers the last couple of years, couple of seasons. He was really looking good, and then he had the problem with an injured finger. We'll talk more about the Clippers game later on in the show. He's not going to play against the Clippers tonight. How serious does this injury look for Marcus Smart going into the Christmas holiday? Again, Memphis will have a couple of days off before they play again.
Yeah, we don't know a lot yet, but at this point, the fact that he was declared out so early is definitely, it's a little noteworthy. But we'll see. As we discover more, it's also the right hand. I think that is it's not a huge difference, but it is a difference, especially for a guy who handles the ball and plays his brand of basketball. So it's noteworthy in it. It just adds to the long line of so frustrating start to his tenure in Memphis so far. I mean, I kind of felt like he was starting to kind of carve out, a little role, coming off the bench, being this impact guy in certain ways that, it's different from him, the role he wanted as the starter and whatnot. But he was carving out a nice role in a valuable role. I feel, and I still feel like the position that he was playing, coming off the bench and being that type of guy, he adds to the value of the Grizzlies from that spot. Because if you watch that Lakers game, he was the guy who came in and started guarding LeBron James and had decent success against LeBron and things like that. So he's a good change of pace option. Sometimes Jalen Wells isn't working. Okay, let's go to the more physical, option in Marcus Smart and things like that. The shooting is what it is. I mean, Marcus Smart is not new here. He's going to have great shooting games, and you're going to say, oh, wow, he looked good. And he's going to have that other game. You're like, for the love of God, Marcus, please stop shooting. So it's just what it is. You get used to it. That's kind of who he's been throughout the course of his career. But his game is all about being an impact player. And it's just, it's tough, because so much of injuries is luck, right? And you look at the two that he's had, like you mentioned with the finger, it was last season. He was having a really good game and he made a 3-point shot. And then next thing you know, he misses the rest of the season. In this game, he converted an and one. And, same thing. He started swirling his hand around. We don't know how serious it is yet. I'm not trying to go that route just yet. We'll know more. But I just think it's frustrating because it's hard for him to get in a groove. And, you see people and, Joe, some people kind of, want him, to be involved in some of those trade conversations and things like that. And, I think that's probably more of an indictment of him not being available than the player that he can be, because it's tough to see what Marcus Smart really brings to the table when, I don't know if we've seen him play 40 games yet in the 2 seasons he's been here.
Very small sample size. And I think you make a great point there, Damichael. The idea of you're more comfortable with potentially trading him because you don't know what he actually could be. If you got a larger sample of what he's capable of, we see plenty of flashes of it, but it's just not consistently there. Let Damichael and I know what you guys are thinking, how you're feeling about the Grizzlies beating the Hawks, Marcus Smart's injury. I'm sure we'll get an update on that going into tomorrow's episode. Obviously tonight with the game against the Clippers, we'll talk about that coming up. Plus, coming up next here on Locked On Grizzlies, Memphis is not playing on Christmas Day. They play tonight, and then they don't play again until the day after Christmas. Is this the last year of that? Will Memphis be back on the NBA's Christmas Day slate in 2025? We'll talk about that next here on Locked On Grizzlies. Today's episode of Locked On Grizzlies is brought to you by the good folks over at Skylight Frames. Do you want to celebrate with and stay connected to people who are far away, missing someone this holiday season, wanting to be a part of your festivities from afar? Maybe gift giving is not your love language. You overthink it and wind up with something disappointing or nothing at all. And if you come from a big family, it can be hard and expensive to buy each one a personal gift for the holidays. I can relate to that. We've got the perfect gift for you. Skylight Frame is the touchscreen digital photo frame your whole family will love. Upload thousands of photos with your phone and watch them appear in seconds. Setup takes less than 60 seconds. It is so easy to use, and you can invite friends and family to easily share photos via the free Skylight mobile app or email. No account or subscription is required. It's a great private way to share photos without posting it to the world or having to print and store hard copies. And we are confident that you'll love Skylight. We offer a free 120-day return policy. Now, with a special limited time offer for our listeners, get $20 off your purchase of a Skylight Frame when you go to skylightframe.com/NBA. That's SKYLIGHTFRAME.com/NBA. Get $20 off your purchase now at skylightframe.com/NBA. That's skylightframe.com/NBA. So, Damichael, the slate of NBA Christmas Day games. All right, Here it is for this year. You've got San Antonio against the Knicks. The Knicks will always host a Christmas Day game. That's a lock. Minnesota is going to Dallas for the 2:30 game. The national game, kind of ironically, is Philadelphia against Boston. What a dud that is, right? The Lakers going to Golden State to take on the Warriors. And we talked about that recently on an episode, right? And then the nightcap, Denver at Phoenix. So, in fairness to the league, you make
play-in galore.
Yeah.
All right, I'll stop. You go ahead.
You make this schedule, and it looks good on paper 5 months ago when the schedule came out, right? Or 6 months ago, whatever it was. And it does not look as good now. Right? You could pretty easily argue that the best game on that schedule is San Antonio and the Knicks. At least that would be my argument. And that's the 12 o'clock game on Christmas Day. So the NBA, you'll note, no Memphis Grizzlies, right? No Cleveland Cavaliers, who is one of the best teams in the league this year. No Oklahoma City Thunder.
That's the one
which is really surprising. Even if you want to push Memphis aside and say, the Grizzlies were bad last year. Ja Morant is coming back from all the stuff that was going on. Cleveland, who knew what Cleveland was going to be? Oklahoma City not being on this list is shocking to me.
They were the number one seed,
The purpose of this is not to talk about OKC. This is Locked On Grizzlies. These 10 teams are supposed to be either the best teams in the league or the biggest stars, right? Wembanyama with the Spurs. The Dallas Mavericks, of course, made the NBA Finals last year. Boston won the whole thing. Do we think that the Memphis Grizzlies will be back? Because it was a couple years ago that the Grizzlies played on Christmas Day.
Yeah.
Do we think that Memphis will be back in the fold on the NBA's national Christmas slate this time next year?
I think so. I do. I really do. And here's why. You remember a couple years ago that you're referring to, and we were talking about future faces of the NBA and all that stuff. And Ja Morant was right up there at the top. I've asked you this before, so I won't ask you to answer it again because you already answered it before on here. Shout out to the everydayers because they've already heard this question. But I asked you, I said, Joe, when Ja Morant was out, who was the guy that the league was pushing as a potential face of the NBA? And your answer was
Anthony Edwards, also known as Mr. Complain About the Officials, but not the woman one, right? Not the woman official.
But not the woman one. She's good.
Yeah.
The other guys,
because the way he complains about officiating is totally cool for future faces of the NBA.
With Anthony Edwards. So it's no surprise to see him playing on Christmas, especially like you say, had a nice run to the Western Conference Finals. And it's a similar arc where Ja, he had a great season, had face of the NBA potential, and then goes to play Christmas 2022. So with all that being said, I think right now we're in the midst of the shift. LeBron James is about to turn 40. Still young, Joe, in years. I want you to know that because anytime we talk about LeBron James aging, I know it hits you a little hard.
I turned 38 in a couple months here, partner. Be nice to me. I'm getting old.
You're still in your prime, man. But the thing about LeBron is he'll tell you he doesn't know how much longer he has left. Same thing with Steph Curry. And quite frankly, their teams just aren't really good right now. And there's no pathway unless they make some big trades to the current structure of those rosters being good. So the point that I'm making is at some point the league is going to have to embrace this shift a little bit more. I'm not saying take both Golden State and the Lakers, off of next year's Christmas slate, because I'm big on, hey, if you're going to say throw teams in there, who you taking off? But I think it's the Grizzlies and OKC that deserve to be on there. Now, if that's the Lakers and the Warriors still being on, and you take off, maybe Minnesota or one of those, I think that could work too. Because Minnesota, like you said, they're going through some stuff right now. Anthony Edwards is complaining about a whole lot more than officials. But I think the way this season is going right now, I think with the way that you talk about guys, who kind of have this ability to grasp with fans, Ja Morant is that type of player. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, I think with a nice playoff run, we'll get some love too. I think OKC and Memphis are both really good potential teams to join next year's Christmas slate. Of course, who they play and all that, it'll probably come down to how the playoffs work out. Like we saw the Grizzlies play the Warriors in the playoffs, so it's easy to match them up against the Warriors on the following Christmas Day. So we'll see how it plays out. But Joe, I think as of right now, with Ja Morant being the player that he is and he's becoming, they're in a good spot to kind of return to that limelight, especially with some of the biggest stars of the game, LeBron, KD, and Curry, kind of getting on the back nine. Well, they're already on the back nine, but but getting closer to the end. Yeah,
I think that it's almost a lock that Memphis will play Golden State in that 10:30 window again. Like that's how they're going to get Ja and the Grizzlies on Christmas. OKC seems like a team that'll be in that Boston mix. If the Thunder make the NBA Finals, play Boston, that easy sort of thing. I just always get a kick out of the Christmas Day games because it's supposed to be a showcase of the league, right? And I wonder, the NBA is terrified of the NFL in so many other ways, right? Mm-hmm. In terms of, like somebody pointed out on X, I wish I could give them credit for it. I saw it as I was scrolling.
Yeah.
The NBA only played 3 games. Like Christmas on Sunday, on Sunday, it was 3 days to Christmas. And there were people were already starting to travel. Kids are on winter break. Like it's vacation for a lot of folks. Not everybody. I know. Shout out to the folks working today, but it's vacation for a lot of people. And you have 3 freaking games. Like you're terrified of the NFL. It's clear as day that you're scared of these people, and they are coming for you now on Netflix on Christmas Day. I think they've got Beyonce, right? Like it's not a game. The NFL is a monster.
I ain't going nowhere.
To start putting your best foot forward in terms of how you schedule these games. I don't understand how you could have a team that is so good like the Thunder, or a team with a star the magnitude of Ja Morant, and just not, especially the Thunder. I want to stress that. This is Locked On Grizzlies. I'm biased. I would put the Thunder in front of the Grizzlies this season. It's wild to me that OKC is not on this Christmas Day slate. You are not putting the best foot forward of the league, having that team off of the schedule, in my opinion.
Yeah. They were, and it's not like they were a surprise like some of the other, like Philly, there was some off-season hype built around what they did. That's
PG,
I don't, I don't blame the NBA for the way that worked out. It's just, it happens. But in terms of with OKC, as you mentioned, and we're saying this because it could be a similar situation for the Grizzlies next season if their path, is similar, where OKC was the number 1 seed. And they put themselves in a position, right? But they went with the Timberwolves because of the, again, the Anthony Edwards factor. Of course, the Mavs were going to be there, and then of course the Lakers and the Warriors. So we'll see how it plays out.
Let Damichael and I know in the comments. Hit us up on X at Damichael C or at Joe Mullinax. Do you think the Grizzlies will be back on Christmas Day in 2025? Damichael, I'm sorry to say this. You're probably flying to the West Coast. I think that's how it'll play out. I would be surprised. As long as the current trajectory continues, I would be surprised if Memphis is not back on that Christmas Day schedule. When we come back here on Locked On Grizzlies, we're going to finish out this episode previewing Grizzlies Clippers, the last game before the Christmas holiday. Talk about that next here on Locked On Grizzlies. Today's episode of Locked On Grizzlies is brought to you by Built Rewards. If you're a renter, listen up. This is a total game changer. Thanks to Built, you can now earn points on rent payments just like you do with groceries or travel. Paying rent now comes with serious perks, and it's completely free to join. You can earn valuable Built points on your rent and everyday spending at no extra cost. You can redeem these points towards flights, hotel stays, and even future rent payments. With over 500 airlines and 700,000 hotels in their program, the possibilities are endless. Start earning points on your rent right now if you're already paying it by going to joinbuilt.com/lockedonnba. What are you waiting for? That's joinbuilt.com/lockedonnba. And make sure that when you go, you are using our link so that they know that we sent you. Joinbuilt.com/lockedonnba. Don't wait. Start earning rewards today. Today's episode of Locked On Grizzlies is also brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL playoffs are almost here. You know who's going to be there? Almost certainly. The Washington Commanders are almost certainly going to be there. But it's not too late to get in on the regular season action with FanDuel, America's #1 sports book, because right now, new customers can finish the season strong with $250 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. FanDuel has so many ways for you to pick up a W. I love betting on which players will score a touchdown. Terry McLaurin, Jaden Daniels, obviously. That's easy money, right? If you're going to make that kind of wager. How many points each team will score? It is so much fun. How are they going to get in? When are they going to score? All of those sort of things can be done with FanDuel. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your chance at $250 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with the good folks over at FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the National Football League. Closing out today's episode with a preview of tonight's contest with the Los Angeles Clippers. And we talked about FanDuel, the current line for this game, Damichael, the Grizzlies viewed as a 5-point-ish, depending on which book you're looking at, 5.5-point favorite against the Clippers. And to be honest with you, that's a testament to the Clippers because this is a team that doesn't have Kawhi Leonard. They're down numerous players. And Ty Lue and that Clippers team just continues to chug away, staying in the playoff conversation in the Western Conference. They have won 2 of their last 5 games, so they're not as hot as the Grizzlies. Memphis, an understandable couple possession favorite, but it's not like the Clippers are a team that you should not pay attention to. They beat the Tar out of Utah. They've beaten the Nuggets. They've beaten the Rockets recently. We know how good Houston is. Memphis better bring their A game. The good news here, of course, is that Ja Morant is not on the injury report going into tonight's contest. We know Marcus Smart is. We talked about that earlier. But Ja will be back. The Grizzlies have a chance to pick up a good win before Christmas here. What are some of your keys to tonight's game?
The Clippers do it on the defensive end. This is going to be one of those really good tests against those physical defenses. These games stand out to me, Joe. We can talk about how the Grizzlies beat up on what I like to call finesse teams. I want to see them against all those physical teams. I want to see them against the Mavs. I want to see them against the Lakers. I want to see them against the Clippers. Zubac had his way with the Grizzlies last season. Guess what? You got Zach Edey now, right? To go with Jaren Jackson Jr., Brandon Clark, healthy. How will the Grizzlies deal with Zubac this season after he kind of had his way with Memphis last season. In addition to that, the Clippers have, their share of pesky, really good defensive players who are going to make, the job a little bit more difficult for Ja, a little bit more difficult for Des, at least on paper. So this is a really good test to the Grizzlies from that standpoint. We talk about in the past, like I think it's those playoff type defenses. Clippers right now, third in the NBA in steals. They get their hands, on the basketball. They're active. They're sixth in defensive rating. This is a team, again, I think they're bottom third of the league in scoring. They're not like the Grizzlies scoring 120 plus points. I don't even think they average 110. But at the end of the day, they want to make it ugly. They want to make it muddy. And this is a playoff type of test for the Grizzlies, because those are the type of teams you're going to see in the playoffs. You're not really going to play those finesse style teams. Every team that we've seen the Grizzlies play in recent years in the playoffs have been very physical. Minnesota Timberwolves that year, very physical bunch. The Lakers, the Warriors, all three really physical teams that make the game muddy, is the way I like to describe it. The Clippers do the same thing. They did it against the Grizzlies last season. I think this is a different type of test. This ain't the Hawks, right? This is Golden State in the past has been, I would like to think, as a physical scene, but this ain't this year version of what we've seen from Golden State so far, even though they started the year really, really good defensively. But I like to think the Clippers are probably a little step above them right now on that end. This is going to be a really good test, Joe. I'm looking forward to how the Grizzlies deal with the physicality that the Clippers are going to bring.
Leading scorer for the Clippers this season with Kawhi Leonard out, Norman Powell, right? Almost 24 points a game. I tell you what, he put up 28 in the most recent game against the Mavericks. It was a win for Dallas, but still an impressive showing. A really solid score. He gets to the free throw line really well. 9 of 10 from the charity stripe against the Mavericks in their most recent contest. They have to defend without fouling. The Clippers not only have Norm Powell, friendly reminder, James Harden still plays for the Los Angeles Clippers, and he is having an all-star caliber season. I think because the league is so deep, and especially the Western Conference at the guard position, he may not make it. But James will be there partying whether he's in the game or not. But he's legitimately having a really strong campaign. So between Powell and Harden, they are doing really well getting to the charity stripe. 15 of the 22 free throws that the Clippers took against Dallas came from Powell and Harden in particular. You mentioned the play of Zubac, how Edey is used, right? Because again, Taylor Jenkins has talked about in the past, some games will start Zach Edey, some games will start Brandon Clark. They'll utilize those guys differently from game to game. This feels like an Edey as the starter game, how that mix-up between Edey and Clark in those different roles, two completely different players, right? One is undersized, a little bit more leapability, a little bit more athletic than Zubac. And then Edey is just bigger. How often does Zubac have to deal with that? Having someone that is just that much bigger than him, it's going to be a real difficult thing for him to get into a rhythm, I'd imagine, having to play against two such different bigs.
This is why you brought Zach Edey to Memphis. It's these type of games. Remember, we were talking about it early this season. Right before he got hurt, you're about to go against Jokic, who ended up missing those games against the Grizzlies. But you're about to go against Jokic and Embiid potentially, and all these different types of matchups where these bigger physical type bigs. We've seen it in the Anthony Davis matchup. That's probably been the most eye-opening example so far this season. When Zach Edey has been in the game against Anthony Davis, the Grizzlies have been the better team. When Zach Edey has been on the bench, when the Grizzlies are playing against Anthony Davis, the Lakers have been the much better team. Zach Edey has a chance to be a game changer in this game. But I'm telling you, I just can't wait to see this guard matchup. It's Ja, it's Dez, what they do on the offensive end. And of course, they're really playing better defensively. But the Clippers are one of the few teams. They can throw Terrence Mann at you. They can throw Chris Dunn, on you. They got Amir Coffey, who's kind of like a longer body. They got Derrick Jones Jr., who, we're familiar with, here in Memphis from his days, with the Mavs and so forth. So many different guys who really are in the league because of their defense at this point. Like, these dudes ain't in the league because they're scoring. I think the Clippers pretty much have 4 guys averaging double figures on the team. That's a far cry from what you got over here in Memphis. So 2 completely different types of teams from that standpoint. But you know what? The Grizzlies are very physical too. This ain't something about the Grizzlies being a finesse team and they're going against a physical team. It's just these are the type of games that I believe give you the best indicator of what the Grizzlies can be in the playoffs. Playing against the Hawks is not telling me what the Grizzlies will do in the playoffs. Playing against the Clippers, playing against the Lakers, playing against a team like OKC here coming up really soon, those type of tests against those type of physical, I mean, it's a Ty Lue. It's why Ty Lue's a championship winning coach. You could talk about how the Clippers have flamed out in the playoffs all these different years. You can never say the Clippers weren't a tough team. You could never say that. Not under Ty Lue, at least. So I'm looking forward to just seeing that battle.
It's going to be a really good game. I'm looking forward to it as well. Damichael will be there at FedEx Forum, of course, covering for the Commercial Appeal. He is the Memphis Grizzlies beat writer for that publication, but he'll also, shed some light on some things for us here at Locked On Grizzlies as well. Thank you so much for being with us on this episode of the podcast. On tomorrow's show, that's right, we will have a Christmas Eve edition of the podcast. I mentioned Damichael covering the game for the Commercial Appeal. He will not be with me, but I have a special guest host, old Sean Coleman, old friend of Locked On Grizzlies. Yes, sir. Old co-host, one of the best co-hosts in the history of Locked On Grizzlies. And I've known him for. I said one of. Oh goodness! Don't get all emotional.
He's near the bottom of the list. Don't you hype that man
It's a long but distinguished list. But excited to have Sean. I've known Sean since my Grizzly Bear Blues days several years ago, and it's going to be great to have him with me. A special Christmas gift to you, the return of Sean Coleman here on Locked On Grizzlies. And then to be honest with you, there's not going to be a Christmas Day episode because it's Christmas Day. Hopefully you guys understand that. Damichael and I spending some time with families. We'll be back on the 26th. So there will be a Christmas Eve edition. I mentioned Sean Coleman and I will be breaking down Grizzlies, Clippers, and all sorts of fun things. No show on Christmas Day. We'll be back on the 26th. Make sure you're liking, commenting, rating, reviewing, subscribing, wherever you get podcasts, Apple, Spotify, Amazon, YouTube. Make us a part of your NBA and Memphis Grizzlies content consumption each and every day, each and every time that an episode drops. Also, make sure you're going to LockedOnDaily.com and subscribing to the Locked On Grizzlies free daily newsletter, LockedOnDaily.com. Go and do that right now if you have not already done so. For Damichael Cole, I am Joe Mullinax. Happy holidays. Merry Christmas, partner, since I won't see you until after the holiday. Have a safe one. And to our wonderful listeners, wonderful viewers, I'll see you tomorrow. But again, be safe. Enjoy the holidays with family and friends. And enjoy Grizzlies basketball, for goodness sakes.
Happy holidays, everyone.
Absolutely. For Damichael, I'm Joe. We'll catch you next time here on Locked On Grizzlies. We'll see you tomorrow. Sean Coleman back in the fold. See ya.